Live. Hey everyone, welcome back to the another session of live coding series, and we are currently trying to learn Angular. And so, if you remember in last stream, Ritvi and myself we went through like how to create a new project. So we started with setting up a new project using monorepo because I love monorepos, and we ended up adding a new project, just an empty project, and then we talked about some of the configuration stuff. For example, what is a component? Like what are those different files which exist? And so today maybe what we can do is we can talk about like how to create your own component, because that's what we have not seen in uh, last stream. We just saw like what this existing component means, what are these properties, why are they useful, and that's it. And today we can start with starting a new component, setting up a new component, and we can also talk about the template engine, which is interesting part. So, in case you have written maybe any code where you have used HTML, maybe if you have used React, you know about sorry, sorry, yeah, in React you generally use JSX, right, Ritvi?
What's React, Santosh? I thought
Uh,
you don't.
yeah, somehow it's a component, it's a framework, or so it's a library. Sorry, and then yeah, so I have to use it at work somehow. And then so you might have used or written like a lot of JSX, or maybe uh, if you're coming from Vue, I think in Vue you use .vue files.
Mm.
And Angular is simple. Angular says, hey, we don't want like .ng or .angular files. Just go ahead and use HTML files, and that's it. We are happy. So yeah, there is no learning curve learning about the template engine, because it's just HTML, and that's what I love about Angular. You know, the template engine is just Angular. You don't have to actually just do anything else to make it work. You don't have to learn something new, because it's just a plain text or plain HTML, and you have to add few things on top of it. So let's go ahead and do that. And Angular comes with a CLI, so you don't have to create all these files manually. Hey Logan, thanks for joining. And you can also do it using NX, because NX, what they do is NX writes a wrapper on top of hey Parth, on top of every command, or you can say, yeah, the command basically which Angular has. So let's say if there is a command in Angular, you can also use it in NX, and it applies to every other framework. So if, let's say, if any other, maybe React, right? React also may have components. So if you're creating a React project, you can create a React component by just using a command, or maybe just use an X console as I do, right? And to do that, so let's go ahead and create a new component. So I'll just go ahead and say generate. And what I want to generate is a component. So here you can see, okay, when I typed component, we see Angular component. So it says the first one, it says an X Angular component, generate an Angular component. And this is actually schematics Angular, which is inside Angular's own code base. So generally, when you are using Angular CLI, you are actually using this one, and we will be using the NX Angular one because it comes with some defaults, and we want to just use that component test. We don't want to use it. Like for example, if you're writing a Cypress component test, you can just use this NX Angular component test. It creates a Cypress component test file for a component, but before that, you have to add a configuration. Let's go ahead, create a new component. So what we will do is we will say, okay, what component we want to create. So it's an hotel management app, right? And I think one component, I think all the app needs is dashboard, or maybe a landing page, or maybe and then if we talk about features, maybe there will be multiple features which might be useful. So what should we create, Ritvi? Should we go with dashboard? So, we can probably use it for our long-term project because, you then we can keep adding few things to the dashboard.
Yeah, sounds good. Dashboard sounds great.
Cool. So I'll say, okay, the file path to the component. So it says, okay, relative to the current working directory. And I will say, okay, this is dashboard. And the thing is, as soon as you write something, it will start running these commands, right? And it says, okay, there is something wrong. The provided directory is all relative to the current working directory. So empty does not exist and under any project root. So of course there is, because current workspace root is root, because it's just like your root. So what I can do is I can give a path. I'll say this is apps slash, and then I can change it to here. I'll just say, okay, go ahead and create a project here. I can copy path. Uh, uh, so I should be able to run it now because it says, okay, now this file will be created inside SRC hotel management apps, hotel management app, and inside app folder.
So, Santosh, there's a question for you asking, do you not find the NXCLI UI annoying?
He might be talking about the TUI, terminal UI, which is,
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, it's you know, I used it in my past project, and it used to fail a lot of times, but I really liked it. I mean, the reason I really liked it is like because we had 400 projects, right? So and then in case I'm running an app, I'm also like building all the dependencies of that particular app. And with TUI, actually, it becomes very easy to figure out or see which project is failing because I can just tab and then I can see the list of project which is running in the same TUI. And it's very useful for linting as well. For smaller projects, I don't think so you ever need TUI. You can disable it actually. You can just say TUI underscore or TUI is equals to false. NX underscore TUI something. There is a flag. There is a flag which you can say, and then it will disable the TUI. But very useful for big projects like where you have hundreds of projects and you are running all these commands, affected commands, and you want to see the log. Very beautiful. So, okay, so now this command is saying, okay, this will create 4 files. And let's see what are the default options which is included when you create a new component. And so it says, okay, whether the generated component is standalone, we all know or may not know, right? I mean, in case you are new to Angular, there is some concept of standalone component because previously in Angular, we used to have a component with a module. So whenever you want to create a component, you have to register it with module, which is not required anymore. You can just go ahead and create standalone component, and it's a default, I think, since Angular 20. And no, before that, I think, way before, maybe. And then we can see all the different options which we have. So change detection strategy, there was a discussion what are the different options we should have for it. On push was going to be default one, and it will be default, I think, in future version, maybe Angular 22 it becomes default, because there was a lot of discussion why we still have on push, because with signals that's what we were trying to solve, right? I mean, with signals you can have uh, your change detection running locally, or maybe very granular level. Right. I don't know who wrote these words, right? It's hard to pronounce somehow, or maybe my English is bad. So, and we will be talking about all those things, right? Change detection, because it's very important topic, and I think we need to discuss more about this, especially in case you're coming from different technology, different frameworks. Maybe, Ritvik, do you have any idea about change detection? I mean, I think it exists in React as well.
About what?
Change detection?
Change detection as a framework? Is it a name
No,
of a
no, no,
framework?
no. It's
Okay.
a concept, basically a concept of.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Got it.
So and then of course it says okay, display block, if style will contain display block. I mean, this is very useful. I have seen it in some cases, especially if you want to wrap the styles for a component. I hope that's what it means, because my CSS skills are very bad. But yeah, so these are different options which we have. Okay, do you want to have inline style, inline template? We will go with the default one. You just want to be relaxed and be go slow with whatever you're building. And it says okay, the component symbol name and defaults to the last segment of the file path. Remember this, because this is very important. Angular team has changed the name, the way they create the component name. If you saw this app, or you saw the first video, we created file and says app.ts, app.html, and same is here. So it says dashboard.html, dashboard.ts, dashboard.css. If you are coming, maybe if you have used earlier version of Angular, you might remember there used to be dashboard component.html, and that is gone, right? So there is no whatever file naming convention used to be. And same for the classes as well. So if I create this component right now, the class name is going to be dashboard, not dashboard component. So we
Oh,
will we will leave it as it is. I mean, so let's see. I mean, the only problem with this is now, what in case I want to create another class with the same name as dashboard? So yeah, best of luck. But let's go with the default. And I think that was one of the discussions that was happening in the community as well. And we need prefix. If you remember last time we said
yes.
we can choose whatever we want, right? I mean, and then we changed it. So I'll just go back to project.json, and you will be able to see a prefix here, which is HM, short for hotel management. So I will keep it empty. So it takes the default one. So if you don't specify, it takes default. If you want to, you can change. I mean, it's absolutely fine, because maybe there are some component which doesn't match, or where you think HM as prefix doesn't make sense, and you should be changing it. I mean, the one experience I have, it not many engineers actually go ahead and change prefix for some reason. I don't know why. And
Interesting.
then yeah. Selector, the HTML selector to use for this component, by default it's HM. It's going to be HM hyphen dashboard. That's the selector which will be created by default. But in case you don't like HM select HM dashboard or whatever the name is, you can just go ahead and change it as well. But these are still options. I can also skip test if I want to, so it will not create the spec.ts file, but let's keep it. And styles, I'm not sure. I mean, let's go with CSS. I mean, as I said, like, we won't be writing much of styles. We will just ask our friend or friendly agent whenever we need a style. uh, so and then yeah, so this is another thing which is available. It's called type.
Mm-hmm.
So Angular, if you noticed, Ritvi, I just mentioned, okay, now the components file name does not include hyphen component or whatever, and it says okay, it defaults to component for Angular version below 20. For Angular 20 and above, no type is appended unless specified. So I can actually mention here that this is a component. I mean, I have a typo, of course, but I'm just showing it because I'm not going to use it, because let's go with the default. I don't want it to be a practice, because Angular team is focusing on like having the file names like this, and it's better always to go with where Angular team is more aligned towards, right? Uh, if you want, I mean, of course, go ahead and add it, use it. But let's go with the default right now. View encapsulation is related to styling, and I'm not sure why it's not visible. But yeah, there is shadow DOM, none emulated. We will talk about it later. View encapsulation, and yeah, this is it. So we have 4 files. All these 4 files will be generated with all these options. and it should be here. So if you see dashboard .ts, you know,
Amazing. Yeah.
but if you've noticed one thing, it is actually created inside app folder, which which might not be good practice, right? I mean, in case I have like 20 components and all of those are actually inside app, each component having 4 files. That's easily like with 10 components, it becomes 40 files.
Yup.
Okay.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, exactly. And it will be a nightmare to manage those files or even find them. So what you can do is you can actually also roll it back. So of course, I'll just say, okay, just roll it back, move to trash. Yes, Serkan. Uh, so, by the way, Serkan is my friend and old colleague. So we used to work together.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey, Pradyumna. Okay, so let's see what I did. So I made a small change, and now what I have is in path. I said, okay, let's go ahead and create these files inside a folder called dashboard. Easy to manage, right? Now you have a folder. This folder dashboard will have all the files related to dashboard.
So, Santosh, would you recommend separating out the test files, the spec.ts, for the testing folder, or would you keep it with the component files in the component folder?
Yes, in Angular we generally keep it with the component.
Got it.
Yeah, until unless maybe if you're writing maybe an integration test where you are trying to test multiple components and that test does not belong to any specific component. In that case, just keep it to the nearest component where you are actually testing your integration.
Got it.
So that's the only case where you may not want to keep it next to your component. But yeah, this is generally what we follow in Angular. So okay, now we have a folder. Now let's go ahead and run it again. And now we should have app, dashboard, and all the files within dashboard. Got this file. We can see like how to use this file or how to use this component. And then we have a spec.ts file, which is used for testing. HTML as a set like right template. CSS where the styling goes in. Cool. So far, nothing extraordinary which we have done. We just created a component using NX console. We even decided not to use the command. But one thing which is good about CLIs or any extensions is actually they give you commands in case you want to see how to create this command and you want to be maybe look cool in front of your friends. Hey, you know what? I know CLI, so you can also see this and maybe use it next time on this on terminal, so they know that okay, you also know the commands. I do it sometimes. Okay, and cool. So now we have a component. Let's go ahead and see how to use it and how do we do it in maybe other frameworks. React. Ritvi, how do we do it?
Okay, so for the components, I think you can do it in multiple ways. I
Mhm.
think one of the things about Next.js, for example, is it creates a different folder for every page. So the way you
Mhm.
structure it, and hence, so then that's how you then structure your components and reuse them throughout the project. I think React, you can do it in multiple ways. There's not a very set way to do it, I believe, except
Mhm.
like a bunch of things like capitalizing and making sure the names match when you're calling them and things like that.
Yeah, so I think they do export default. Still, they do export
Yes.
default. Okay, okay,
I think
cool.
you can do both ways, depending on whether it's a function or a component. You
Hmm.
can go both ways. And I also think that from what I've observed in React, you keep your test files separate, right? You don't bundle it with your component.
Yeah, I think that there is a concept, right, where you keep a test folder and then keep all the test files there.
Correct. And then you have a test script that goes with it in that same folder.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Angular says, okay, just focus on writing code. That shouldn't be a developer's concern. That's why I love Angular. And okay, so let's go ahead and see like how we do it in Angular. So when we were talking about component, we said what we create is an reusable HTML tag, and the selector is a HTML tag. So if I have to render this component, but let's go ahead and write something here, right? And we know that this is loaded. So I'll just go ahead and create maybe S2 tag, right? And say, welcome to the hotel management dashboard. Okay, I'm accepting some of the suggestions by those. So I have still uh, GitHub Copilot enabled. So it is giving me inline suggestions, right? So I'm not using agent, but I'm going to take some of the inline suggestions because writing is boring, right? Just kidding. I mean, uh, okay. So when I talk about writing is boring, because last month I had a German exam and I had to write like with a pen and paper. Oh my god, that was very stressful. I was actually writing a test maybe after 2008. That was the last time I gave an written exam during my bachelor's. But okay, let's not talk about it.
Do you
The,
not write a lot with the pen and paper?
No, actually, and I mean, so even when I write, so I write so fast that I make spelling mistakes. So, 100% of the time there is something which is wrong in whatever I have written, and I am sure if I'm going to read that again after maybe a few weeks, I don't know like what I have written. So,
Oh, so you were basically going to be a doctor first.
oh no, glad I'm not doctor, right? So if I just think about writing a prescription, even your physician or whatever you call it.
Chemist, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then so that's funny thing, right? In India we call it as chemist. That's not the case in
Pharmacist? Yeah, pharmacist.
here it's pharmacist. So in that was very a cultural shock for me, because we call it chemist in India, and I was like, I think it was Serkan or someone. I asked like, where I get, can I buy medicine, or that something. I have asked about like chemist, where I can find a chemist, and he was like, why you need chemicals? And I was like, what?
Oh, yeah, that must have been an interesting conversation for the police too.
Yeah, like what kind of drugs you need? Like why you're looking for a chemist? But yeah, guys. So folks, I mean, it's not very common to call chemist in Europe. You generally say pharmacist. So okay. Anyways, let's move back and we talk about like how to use this component. So we wrote an HTML which just renders an S2 tag with an ng samurai. Hey ng samurai. Moin. Oh yeah, moin. So I'm going to take this selector, and you know every framework has this concept of root component. You go to any framework, like they have this concept of root component, where there is an entry point where you can actually, if you write some HTML there, it will be instantly visible. Or if you want to render anything, you have to make it available to your root component. I'm sure like that's the case with React as well, right, Ritvi? So you also have a root component in React.
We do, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then I know about Woo. It does exist. So here also, like this app.html is your root component. So if you want to render anything, you have to actually put it here. So it can be rendered on your final UI. So what I'm going to do is I will remove this welcome one and use the new component which we created, which is HM dashboard. But interesting, there is an error. Wow.
Yay,
And
error of the day.
yeah, and I just wanted to show you because this is might be something which is a little bit different from other frameworks, or maybe not. Because when you use a component, you have to tell your root component that what is this, like who owns this particular selector, from where it is coming. Otherwise, it won't be able to identify what's happening, like why you have HM dashboard here. And cool thing about Angular is I have something called as Angular language service running. So this is Angular language service. In case you don't have it installed on your machine right now, just go ahead and install it. And this error is actually coming, or I can see this error even before compiling my code because of Angular language service. Very useful, so you don't make a mistake. And right now, if I go to my console and I haven't saved this file, but I'm still getting this error, right? As soon as I save this file, even my compiler will start complaining about this, saying, oh, okay, you know what? I don't know like what this HM dashboard means. And it's the same error. If you see, It says HM dashboard is not a known element. It's similar, like for example, if you have a button, if you have a div, and if your compiler cannot identify what that means, here it's the same. So we have written HM dashboard, but some my root component doesn't know about it. So what are we doing here? So let's go back and let's see how we can actually use it. So I can go back to my root component, and there is a TypeScript file. So you have to import uh, the new component which we have created here, and you have to tell this that okay, if I'm talking about dashboard, this is what I mean by dashboard. So I'm saying dashboard. If you remember, I said the class name will be just dashboard, not dashboard component anymore. If you're coming from earlier Angular version, and then I can just say okay, go ahead and add it into import set. Another thing, we are also seeing one warning. You see this? It says NX welcome is not used within template of app. This is again an amazing feature of Angular's language service. So Angular language service identified that NX welcome is what it is doing is if I go back to NX welcome is another component which has the selector. So let's scroll up. Uh, okay, so I have this Logitech touchpad or scroller, whatever you call it. Okay. So if I go scroll back, this is most HTML and static CSS. So here it says there is a selector called an MHNX welcome, which we just removed from root component. If you remember, it was here, and we removed it. So what I can do is I can also remove this because your compilers identified that, oh, this is really not useful because you are not using it. So you can just remove it. And I can just go back and see if my compiler compiles. Everything is good. Everything is green. And if you're wondering which terminal I use warp. And yeah, I don't like other terminals. I've been using warp for some time, and I think it looks pretty good. And let's go back to the UI as well. And it says welcome to the hotel management dashboard. I will just zoom in a little bit, maybe 125. I think this should be visible. So what we did, we just rendered our first component, and you can inspect and see this component being rendered here. So if I just zoom in, 120, yeah, I think this is visible here. So HM dashboard, this is the selector we wrote, and within this selector, this was the HTML we wrote. So it's being rendered on my root component. Easy.
Amazing.
So yeah, so this is how you create a new component and then you can render it. But let's go one level up. Whenever you run any app, right? When you create a new app, are you going to run this app.html directly in the browser? What you serve, for example, if you have a static app, Ritvi, so you have a static CSS JS app. So which is the first HTML file you will serve?
The entry point, is that what you're asking? My homepage?
Homepage,
That,
yes, exactly, yes, yeah.
yeah,
So generally you name them as index.html, right?
correct.
Most
The entry
most
point,
of them,
yes.
yeah,
Usually index.html, and that's the standard for most frameworks for that matter.
exactly. So Angular is of course standard framework, so they also have index.html, and it's here. It's actually available. If you see, it's outside app because this is the entry point. Like this is the HTML which will be served when you start your application. This will be the HTML file which will be loaded once you actually publish it on maybe any server, right?
So this is something different, right? Usually the index.html file is in its own folder in most of the other frameworks.
I think you're talking about maybe a framework where you have routing based on pages.
Correct. Most
Yeah.
of them, yes.
Yeah. So Angular doesn't support that. So we don't have page based routing or whatever we call it as. So that is something which is supported by another maybe meta framework we can call it.
Okay.
It's called analog.js. So which does support this. file based routing, right? That's the name.
Interesting. File-based routing. Yes, that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah, file-based routing. So Angular doesn't support file-based routing, but Analog does. So that's why you're saying this is a different, because you have written Next.js, which supports it.
That's a comment that you'd love.
Yeah,
From your calendar, GitHub
one
Stars
second.
Insight call. New use cases for GitHub Copilot coding agent. Starts in
Alexa,
30
stop.
minutes.
Okay, so
Well, now you all know that Santosh is missing out an important call for the stream.
okay. Angular is not the standard framework, NG is the top framework ever. I agree. I agree. Okay, cool. So let's see our index.html, right? So we said, okay, this is the first file which will be loaded when you serve your application. And if you see, there is something known as HM root, which is available here, you know, and I hope this looks familiar because this is what we see here.
Yep.
So this is how it's all connected. So, index.html loads your root, hm root loads whatever you have defined here. And then if there is any route, it goes like it starts loading other routes which are defined here. And if you're wondering what this router outlet is doing here, just ignore it right now. I mean, it's something which we will discuss in upcoming episodes, because this is we are learning. We have to be relaxed. We have to understand why we are writing it, why we are writing some code like this. So don't worry about if I'm not talking about something, because that's something which we will discuss about in future. Cool. So we now know this dashboard is loaded here. We removed the router, and now this let's move. And we wanted to actually uh, we wanted to discuss about like basics, right? The basic of template. So we know now we created a dashboard component. I think we can do that. So I think one thing when I started teaching Angular right back in 2017, I used to start with TypeScript. First few lessons or first few things or first few lectures of mine used to be TypeScript. I realized now it's like everyone knows TypeScript. I think anyone who doesn't know TypeScript, I'm sure like that's the default, right? Prithvi? I mean, you might have also written TypeScript when you were writing Next.js.
Yeah, I think not actively, like I wasn't very aware of, oh, this is TypeScript and this is how it works. But yes, because of using different frameworks, you do end up uh
Hmm.
quote unquote using it. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it became default. So I'm not going to talk about like how you compile, or maybe we can do another dedicated session, totally focused on TypeScript. But for now, let's go ahead and start with basics of templates in Angular. So let's see. What I want to do is, you know, here this is a static tag or static text which is coming right now. Generally, like if you are working on in maybe a real application, are you going to just mention the type static text? Answer is maybe no, right? I mean, of course,
Absolutely.
there will be some static text, for example, this header, and but most of the data comes from backend,
Correct.
right? If I mean, maybe that's where the value is, like how you can render the data. So rendering, right? So all this thing called rendering, like we keep talking about rendering, like render this, render that. So that's what is important here. So what we'll do is we'll see like how we can actually render some value on our HTML basically. And this is where the template syntax or maybe template engine comes into the picture, like how you render a value which is written in TypeScript or which is available in your TypeScript code, and you are actually presenting it on your HTML template. So let's go ahead and try that out. So this is so one thing which I know in React, you mostly use functional component.
Correct.
What about Next.js? You still use functional component, or you also
Yeah,
write?
it's similar. It's very similar to React in that way. Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. So no, we so in Angular, of course, we use classes, and
Oh.
yeah, there has been a long discussion in the community, like we should be using functional component, or maybe just functions to write component. But I think all the communities have, or all the frameworks have their reservations, and most of the developers I know are actually, or were, they were .NET or Java developers, and they love classes. And when I talk about them, I also love classes because I am a .NET developer. I have written .NET developer for, I've been .NET developer for so long. So, and I started writing TypeScript because I loved the classes. So yeah, we don't want to maybe let it go. And yes, now I'm not talking about the song from Frozen, Let It Go, but yeah, we don't want to let it go. So really, so if you know like how you define a property in a class, so you can just say, okay, this is a property. Maybe I'll say this is title,
Hmm.
right? And
Okay.
I will copy this text or cut it maybe and paste it here. So this is available on your TypeScript file, but not really on your template side. And now we can do is we need to render it. So in Angular, whenever you have to render a property, you generally do is double curly brackets, and then you can give the property name. So title, and I can say format document. I'll just use prettier for formatting. And this is it. This is what you have to do. So whenever you have a property, just define here, and then go ahead and render using double curly brackets in your template. Let's see if it works. So compiler says, yep, all good, you're good to go. And this is one thing which I wanted to also talk about here. In past, people used to complain a lot about, hey, whenever you start a new Angular project, the framework is really bloated. This is like a 500 KB or 600 KB of bundle size. With each release, Angular team is actually removing it. Just see the impact. 11.56 KB for the starter app. 11 KB. Believe me, this used to be 300 KB or something when I
Nice.
started. Yeah. So they have made a lot of improvements. 11 KB is nothing. Like, I mean, of course, our app currently has nothing. Basically, it's just a small text, and we will talk about something known as tree shaking in future, like what tree shaking is, like how it removes the dead code and everything. But it does it really really well. Angular team is doing killing it. Basically, I've written blog few months, no, maybe a year ago, like how the tree shaking has improved in the newer version of Angular, and it's available on santosh.yadav.dev if you want to read it. And let's see. So compiler says all good. UI says all good. Yes, I know you have this title available here. And let me see if I have Angular developer tools here. No, let's install it. Angular dev tools. So Riti, you might know about React dev tools, right?
Yes, I love using React Dev tools.
Yeah, I also love using Angular dev tools. Okay, cool. So, okay, so I have may need to just restart the browser, just close it and open it again, and let's see. So I'll say, okay, this is Chrome. Okay, where is the browser? Mhm. Okay, just new window. Okay, so I think we can just open localhost. Host colon 4200, and our app is back. I can
Yay.
inspect. And you can also see something called as Angular, and this is how your Angular DevTools looks like.
Lovely.
And you see, it also renders your maybe something known as DOM tree. I think everyone knows what DOM tree is, right? If you started with HTML, I think that's the one thing you learn about. So it says, oh, you have a root, and then you have a dashboard, and then if I had multiple components, it will render all those. And it says, your dashboard has property called title. I can change it, and I can also see like, oh, if I what in case I make some changes, you want to debug it, just go ahead and do it from here. Like you can see, just whatever you change, it will just be reflected back to your UI.
Lovely.
And we don't have signals. I think we should talk about signals, but maybe in next session. And open source, yeah, log type table instances to console. Okay, and there is a profiler, injector tree. We'll learn about injector tree as well, and router tree. So for now, we created our component. We just rendered. We learned how to render maybe a value on your UI, and let's talk about some different types of values, right? Or say different types of variables which you might create. So this is a string variable, right? So if you see in TypeScript, if you create a variable and assign it as a string value, the type becomes string, right? So if you see, it says dashboard.title and the type is string. There is a word for it. Anyone knows? Ritvi?
For what?
So here, right now, I'm not saying this is a string, but actually TypeScript is able to do something and figure out that this is a string.
Typecasting. Typecasting.
Or you
Or
can say inference. So it can infer, yeah, it can infer the value saying, okay, you said string, so I can just consider it as string value. So if I have, let's say, for example, number of bookings, and I assign it as a number, it says, hey, um, I assigned a type, that's number. And you can also, of course, do something like this was no. So let's see. Has no initializer, and okay. So yeah, I mean, I was trying to do something, but yeah, maybe. Okay, so we know like number, string. There are different data types, right? So uh, if you try to actually explicitly say, okay, this is number, TypeScript or maybe Angular compiler can tell you this is a ESLint rule which is added by default. It says, okay, I already know the type. Why you are actually telling me this? You can just remove it. You don't have to, because this is an extra information which is not required. So you can fix it. And yeah, this is very cool. So number of bookings is number, maybe date of booking, date of last booking maybe, and I can say, okay, this is type of date, and you can have a union type as well, right? So this is a union type, so where you can say, okay, date might be null as well as a valid date.
okay, that's interesting.
I mean, yeah, so this is generally you try to avoid null values as much as possible, because null values can cause an issue when in production. So if actually you're trying to read a value and it does not exist, you have to always see if the value exists or not, and then read it. If you know that there is no null values, better, right? Then you don't have to do a lot of typecasting, or maybe you don't have to write a lot of if-else statement in your code base.
Got it.
And then you have date type, sorry, type number, string. You also can have maybe the most common one which we use is array, right? So you can maybe define list of values. So what we can do is I can say, okay, this is hotel list, and let's say we are saying there are two values, name and location. So this is array. And generally, if I talk about JavaScript, how do you deal with arrays? If I have to go ahead and render it this list somewhere, any what you will reach out for, which operator?
If I wanted to make it in the dictionary, is that what you're looking for?
No, I mean this is already a list. So for example, if I want to render it on my UI,
Uh-huh.
so how you will do it in plain JavaScript?
For loop?
Yeah, for loop, exactly. So we will go for loop, right? And we'll say, okay, let's write a for loop so we can actually iterate through these values and then maybe render something. And you can do the same. So if I have to do it in Angular, I'll say, okay, this is h3, and I'll say this is hotels, uh, of our family, because hotel is family business. And then, of course, you can now list through it. So here, there is an interesting thing which you can see, and I'm not going to accept it because this is an old syntax. A lot of Angular developers will just say, "Oh, what is this? Why actually?" Whatever GitHub Copilot is actually giving me some information which is very outdated. Yes, not all LLMs are really well uh, aware of the latest syntax which is in Angular, so you have to be really careful. This used to be a syntax before Angular 16, Angular 17, I think. So Angular 17 gave us a new syntax. So I'll just comment it, and I can just go ahead and use the new syntax, which is called @for. Not okay. I'll just @for.
Yeah.
And you see, I mean, it looks natural, right? I mean, it looks like just writing for loop as you will do in TypeScript.
Yep.
So now we can iterate through the values. So I'll just go back to my, yeah, someone mentioned @for. Yes, you're right. Oh, though I'm not an LLM. So even though I said, yes, you're right, but I'm not an LLM. Okay. Uh, bad joke, sorry. Okay, so I'll say, okay, for each hotel in of my hotel list, and I'll just remove this track by for now. I mean, because I want to show you what happens in case I try to remove it. And again, so Angular language service is actually shouting at me and saying, "Hey, you're doing something wrong." What? And again, I will try to as I move, I will try to relate it to the frameworks you might have used, or maybe if you are a React developer, I try to convert you. I will try to convert you so you will start writing Angular code.
I think we should rename the series, Santosh. Trying to make Ritvi an Angular developer. Yes, I like that.
Okay, so in React as well. So whenever you have a list, you have very important parameter. Ritu, what is that? So if you have a list,
Mm-hmm.
there is an important property which you have to define.
Very important. Okay.
Yeah, starts with key K.
Key? Did you just say that
Exactly.
accidentally?
Okay, yeah. Okay. So it's key, right? If you
Yes.
remember in React, if you don't define the key, it will give you not error inside your editor, but at the runtime,
Pretending.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Saying, "Oh, you are missing a key." So Angular is smart. Angular tells you before you even compile your code, and tells you, okay, you know what, the loop must have a track expression. So you have to define a track by key. That okay, this is a loop, and if you don't have a track by, it will be an expensive operation to actually re-render this every time. So for us, if I see, there is no unique identifier right now. Like hotel name can be same, locate that might be, but location can be different. But generally, we work with an ID, right? So we work with ID, which is a unique key. And if you don't have a unique key, you can actually just go ahead and use what was given as a default. So when you are running a for loop inside Angular, it actually assigns a running number to each and every value, which is index. So, okay, so this is my data. I'll just go ahead and say, okay, what I want to display is, I'll just say, okay, name and location. And now we should have a list of your hotels within a div, which assigns a class. I don't have any idea what this class means, but I think I'm, just Copilot trying to be smart and thinking that I know CSS and I probably will write some CSS, but very long expectation. Okay, so this is the list of hotels. Hotels part of our family. Of course, we can make it better. You can maybe use table, maybe use custom table or whatever you want to build, and you can also have maybe some identifier here. So I'll say, okay, this is name and this is location. So and re-render it, and it says, okay, this is name Hotel California, location Los Angeles. So this is how simple it is. So you just use @for, give this, and if you think about, if I can use index, yes, you can also use index value. So I can say, okay, this is ID maybe, and not hotel.id, but I can just say, okay, this, let's just use this index. Mhm. And you can also render this value, and you see this is a running number, so it starts with 0 because of course it's JavaScript, and number starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2. If you want to make it +1 or starts with 1, so you can just make it 1. So 1, 2, 3. So this is something you can do inside your template as well. So if you want to add, remove, add, subtract, divide, just go ahead and do it inside your template. That's it. So we know how to render a value, how we can use for loop. What else? Is there any other control flow syntax you know about, Ritvi? What else we can use?
Other control flow syntax.
I mean, so control flow is not something new, right? I mean, I think it exists in all the languages. So there is if, for example, like if else, there's another control flow which exists.
So I know switch case is not used though a lot, right?
Switch case, yes, that's again a very good uh, operator, which of course people love to use, and that's also
Oh,
available in Angular.
oh,
Not,
interesting. I did not know people were that fond of using it.
I mean, I haven't seen, to be frank, not a lot of use cases, but
Exactly.
maybe
Yeah.
the one use case you can think about is maybe a tab, where you have a list of tabs, and based on the case, you want to actually just show another tab. So
Got it.
that's, yeah. But you can also do it with if else maybe,
Yeah.
but or maybe or with combine it with for, and that is also something which you can do. So let's see. I mean, we'll start with if, for example, and we'll talk about a very good use case. For example, what in case this hotel list is empty? We don't want to actually go ahead
So
and,
fallback
yeah,
component basically.
I think that exists in default. This is not for switch keys, but this is sorry, this is not for, but switch case, yes, maybe. So you can also do if, right? You can combine it with if, maybe. So saying, okay, if hotel list, right?
Mhm.
Then actually just go ahead and use it.
Got it. Ah, makes sense. So you're
Yeah,
making a nested control flow.
yeah. And maybe in case of else, we can say uh, maybe H, another H4, no hotels available, basically. And we can test it. So let's go ahead and see. We can go back to your TS, remove all the values, make it empty. Property name does not exist, but it, okay, somehow it is trying to read the values. If hotel list, if hotel list, okay, this is empty value, right? So I'll just say, okay, dot length is greater than 0, and let's see. I think this should work, right? Oh. Property name does not exist on type neighbor.
Yay, end of stream error.
Yeah, always. Uh, why? If okay, let's see what I'm missing. So hotel list dot length, which is greater than zero,
You don't
okay,
have with you. That doesn't
equals.
matter.
No, no, no. I mean, I think it should be greater than equals to zero, right? No, still. Okay, let's see. Ah, you know what? Because hotel list, the type is incorrect.
Got it.
So
Interesting.
because Angular uses strict mode by default. So if I go back to your tsconfig.json, this is strict by default. So strict
Hmm.
is true. So if I make like enable strict true and then do try to do this, the type will be never. So it will say, okay, there is no property which is called name exist. So the best way to do it is go with what?
Lovely.
Anyone?
Makes sense.
So what I can do is I can actually create a type based on this,
Yeah.
right? So I can create an interface. So let's do that. And yeah, as usual, we found some error at the end. So I'll say interface hotel, okay, location string, and I can say, okay, this is type of hotel array, and this now can be empty, right? Because
Wow. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes.
so now let's go and see. Oh, there is no error. Okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. Uh, let's hope it works. And I'll just close this and let's see. So I think the only problem is else is not working, right? It says, okay, we also wrote that, okay, if hotel list length is greater than equals to zero, do this, or if there is an else statement which says no hotels available.
But
So
Santosh, if you're doing greater than equal to zero, no case is gonna fall under else, right?
because it matched,
Yeah. Like, yeah.
okay. So, oh, oh, okay. So logical mistake. Yeah, everyone can do that, I think. And yeah, someone mentioned there is an empty thing,
These
empty,
things.
empty as well. Yeah, we can of course talk about it as well. But right now, for example, if this was else got triggered, so we now see no hotels available, and we can also see it inside Angular. So this is dashboard. It says, okay, this is hotel list which is empty right now. Number of bookings is zero. This is 10, and then you can also add values here if you want to. I mean. Let's see. No. Okay. Is it like only this value which is allowed to change? Okay. So, okay, this is changing, but not this one for some reason. But okay, cool. So we have talked about if, we talked about for, we talked about if else, and we saw like how you can render the values. And maybe tomorrow we can continue doing the control flow syntax.
Yeah.
And we maybe we can also start with signals, little bit learning about signals, because that's very important now,
So,
as you.
Santosh,
Yeah,
would you say we should also talk about memoization before we jump into signals, or can we do signals directly?
yeah, signals, because yeah, everything is related to signals. Then you don't have to, and like, even so that's why I love Angular, right? Of course I'll be saying this hundred of times on the stream, but you don't have to like do memoization
Memoization, yes.
memoization manually on your own.
Got
It's all taken care for you. So you just work with like top level primitives, and then everything works. So this is also magic. So people don't like try to go in depth, but I think this is what I call as maybe a framework which is easy to learn, because if I'm writing a framework, why I should care about the internals? The framework is written because there are a lot of maybe wrappers on it, so it my life becomes easy. Otherwise, I will just go ahead and write JavaScript
it.
and struggle as I used to do it in maybe early 2000s. So,
Fair, given. I'll let you take that point.
okay, I'm not sure like why this syntax looks weird. Maybe the prettier syntax. Ah, yeah, there is a prettier configuration for this. I'm not sure like if anyone knows on the stream, but I'll try to find it. So because uh, for this new syntax, new control flow syntax, they have added some styling or maybe some formatting which is different, so it properly aligns it and not should not look like this what we are seeing on the screen.
Interesting. So do we need to fix that?
No, no, it's okay. I mean, we can do that it on next stream because it's okay, right? I mean, it doesn't look very odd. Cool. So this is it for the day. So you can I'll commit this code, push it. You can follow on the same repository, and maybe I'll just create a PR. So it's easy to follow up. So you can keep looking at different PRs and see like what we did in this particular stream.
And I think, Santosh, I'll try to create an issue with the planning mode with Code Tower for tomorrow's stream so that if we're talking about anything and someone wants to refer, we can just share the issue link with them.
Yeah. And if you want to do it like if you want to code along, maybe just go ahead and do that. That's also very good way to learn Angular or maybe any technology.
Yes.
Uh, so I'll say this is template syntax. Yep, thank you everyone. So we are done and we can end the stream and I'll see you tomorrow and have a great rest of the day.